Welcome to the White Knuckle Podcast with your hosts, Jason Science and Dr. Clint McCoy.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the White Knuckle Podcast, episode number 144, I believe. And welcome back to our, what I guess we're calling is our grind report. The grind is, well, I guess in my book it began 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, I can't count. I just generally relied on David for his math work in school. So, but anyway, it's been a few weeks. I've got joined with me to my left, Mr. David Prochnow. Dave,
hello.
How's it going? And on the other line, Mr. Clint McCoy. Dr. Clint McCoy. How's it going?
The doc.
Good, guys.
The doctor. Dave, summarize the last week in one.
Jump on the story bandwagon, Jason.
What story?
Tell the story.
We're talking about the rut. Oh, that story. I'm just kidding. Wow is all I could say. I mean, I don't think that David nor I was prepared for the hunt that we had. We'll get to where we all believe the rut is at, or the stage that it's at, in just a second. But I had the opportunity to go to Missouri and hunt with a buddy that owns an outfitting business, Joe Ogden, who's a fellow realtor. Got his start, I believe, a long time ago in Whitetail Properties. Now works for a company called Trophy Properties right out of Clarksville, Missouri. And Joe was gracious enough to put David and I on a couple different farms and let us do our thing. And morning number one, we don't have any idea really what to expect. We know that we're on a timber transition, and we know that we're a long ways up in the air in terms of just elevation, and then we're a ways up to the stand, etc. And I'm, of course, amped up and sitting in the stand, and David's getting everything ready when a deer just sort of comes rolling in, strolling in, and I fly out of my seat like a bomb went off under me. And the deer's like, "Oh, really? Come on!" And it stood there, and it was dark, and I'm like, "Oh, I guess it probably sees me now, so I probably should look at it with the binoculars." And I did, and I'm like, "Oh my God!" Oh, it was big. All I could see was frame and mass in the dark.
In the dark.
Yeah. Yep.
At about 11 yards.
At exactly 11 yards. I range find it at like 12 times. So I'm going to blame that one on David and God for not making it light enough, and David not being ready. No, it was just that wasn't going to happen regardless. So what did we end up? What happened after that, Dave? And it was a busy. So we were fortunate enough to have 3 hunts out of probably 12 that we were going to do. We made it 3 in, but that morning turned out to be pretty incredible, really.
Yeah, about the time the sun hit the leaves, all of a sudden,
the
little buck parade began.
Yeah, and it was, really, I feel like they were just feeding up across the top of this ridge. It was classic, Dan Infault style stand setup. We were in a saddle. It was, if you drew one up on a piece of paper to explain to someone what a saddle was, that would have been it. We were on the leeward side of the ridge, but the deer were all coming up in the lowest part of the saddle, but they were all really just feeding, weren't they?
Yeah, they were just poking along.
Yeah,
enjoying each other's company.
Yeah, so that was Friday morning. Mm-hmm. We ended up seeing somewhere less than 20 and more than 10 bucks. One that had me just. My release was clipped. I was ready to go. I kept asking David, "Do you have him? Do you have him? Do you have him?" And David's like, "He's got to be in the frame." And I'm like, "Well, that's not good enough." And I'm thinking to myself, "Well, I probably would have already shot if I wanted to kill him," and because I was sort of questioning in my mind whether he was big enough or not. And finally, I just said to Dave as he was walking broadside at 40 yards, roughly 35 to 40 yards, perfectly open timber. I said, "I'm not going to shoot him." And Dave said, "Okay." Because David was struggling to get, it's a new camera for him. It's a pretty technically advanced camera, I would say. It films at 60 frames per second, which makes it uber sensitive. And anyway, that deer ended up feeding. No, that deer ended up going kind of round and no, I don't
And then
remember.
down the hill.
Yeah, it went down the hill, and then we had several others come in, and it was really cool to see Clint because there was a lot of posturing going on, a lot of social hierarchy shit, I guess you'd call it. It was so cool because we very quickly came to realize that the deer density and age structure there was different than what we had dealt with, and we kind of knew that going in. I mean, with trail cameras, I had a reveal down there for quite a while, and so we knew that going in. But just to, there was what was, I guess, morning number 2. I was grunting at a deer. Well, let's get to that in just a minute. So that was morning number 1. The second hunt, which would have been Friday evening, we sat on this really small creek, and that drainage system basically attached within probably a mile on each side or a half mile on each side. It attached to bigger timber, and so we were positioned right in maybe 100-yard wide piece of timber where the creek ran through, and there's a steep drop off. We were at the bottom of it, right on the water, basically. So our scent was pulling into the creek, and at times there was gusts that were pushing in what we felt was going to be the right direction. And I put my binoculars up at around 5 o'clock. And I was like, "Oh, David, there's some deer 200 yards away out in the cornfield," and then I kept looking, and I grabbed him again, and I'm like, "Whoa, there's a buck," and I'm like, "I think it's a good buck, David." And David didn't have his binoculars, and I wasn't giving mine up at that point, and I'm like, "I'm going to grunt at him." So I've got my grunt call in one hand and my binoculars in the other, and I grunt, and he doesn't do anything. I grunt louder, and he picks up his head, and I'm like, "Oh, wow." My first instinct was shooter all the way, absolutely. So from then on, it was just basically a game of not really cat and mouse, just me trying to keep his attention with grunts every now and again, but not too many that it was just, sounded like a band was playing over our way. And he sort of would go from one scrape to the next scrape to the next scrape every time I grunted. He'd move our way a little bit, like 20 yards, and he'd work another scrape and thrash a tree. And then finally he had enough. And he starts coming on a rope, Clint, right to us. And I am falling to pieces in the tree. And David has him perfectly. I'm like, "You got him?" "Yeah, I got him. And I'm looking at him through the binoculars going, "Yeah, he's a shooter all day." We all agreed a 155-ish, 10-point, with a busted off drop tine on his right side. Had pictures of the deer, etc. Comes walking right at us, right in the same trail that we walked in on. He kind of got a little funky where we walked in, and came in, what would you say, Dave? 20 yards? 15 yards?
Yeah, about 15.
About 15 yards. I ranged him 28 yards. He stopped. He licked a branch. He did whatever he was doing, and then took 2 more steps, and he's licking a branch, and all of a sudden, boom, in mid-lick, he stops and locks onto us like a laser beam. And neither one of us moved. And it was actually tonight when I was sitting in the stand back here in Wisconsin that I thought, the sun was basically not parallel with the ground, but it was on the horizon. And I just wonder if there was a glare, because it was right at us. I wonder if there was a glare off the lens that he caught or something like that up in the tree, because we did not move. We were a ways in there. We were in a lone wolf, two lone wolves actually, and in a pretty decent sized tree. It didn't offer a lot of cover, but it seems like, a lot like around here. There's not a lot of huge oaks because stuff has been logged out, and he locked onto us, and I think probably after a 5-minute stare down, he stomped his foot, and I'm like, here we go. And then he snorted and ran away, and I had some choice. We're gonna have to do a lot of editing.
Yeah, we're going to have to edit out some of the last interview.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, blank off. I'm like, I called him a lot of names. Then I just wheezed at him while he was out in the cornfield.
Was this at closing of legal shooting night?
Oh, no. There was a good 45 minutes left.
Oh,
But we had a lot of time invested.
Those are those, okay. If it is close to that, like end of legal shooting night, those are those. All right, pack your shit. Let's go. We're done.
Yeah, no, we couldn't. We still had. Honestly, there was deer to see yet. Really, and so I thought I would wheeze at him just to get him to going a little faster, a little farther, and that accomplished
that. Always helps.
Yep.
Yeah,
so I'm like, get out of here, leave, go, be gone, because we knew that there was probably 3 shooters in the area. Didn't know at the time that this was the one with the drop tine that unfortunately had broken off, but learned it after looking at the footage, so that didn't work out. But it was a really cool hunt. I mean, if we could have painted paintings of the places that we sat, it would have been they would probably sell for a lot of money. It was just beautiful country. I've never hunted it before. But much like the southwestern area of Wisconsin, it's hilly, not to the it's probably got about 200 feet of elevation difference in terms of the lowest part of the hill to the highest part of the hill. I'd say we've got another 200 feet to go here. But it can be as steep as it was. Clint, you were here. The next morning we go out again and we set up in this kind of an open area, an open oak flat. In between were about 3 ridges, what turned out to be not 3. I don't remember how many there were exactly. And we just got in there, and I'm like, we got the stand hung, and we got in there, and it started to get light. And I think I even said in my interview, I'm like, I just don't get it. I don't like this. I don't like anything about it. Because it just didn't, like, there wasn't any, perfect cow path, 20 yards away or anything, but it just, there was lots of sign around, so, David's like, quit being a baby. And
it wasn't even light yet, Clint, and he was telling me he didn't like it.
He couldn't see it yet.
Couldn't even see it yet. He wasn't feeling it. Was not feeling it.
I was not feeling it. And, I don't even remember what it was. We saw so many bucks in the course. It was probably an hour, and I'm like, yep, I'm right. It's 7:45. We still haven't seen anything. And all of a sudden Dave's like, oh, there's a deer. I'm like, oh, that's a fawn coming off the ridge. Turns out it wasn't a fawn. It was a 2 or 3 year old 8. Pretty nice 8, actually. Probably 115, 20 inches. But it was so far down that ridge that it looked tiny. And I just didn't have my bearings all together completely yet, and anyway, that one went down, and I kept grunting at it, and it would, tilt its ears back as it walked by us, but was paying no attention. And as it got closer to the bottom of the ditch, so to speak, he just went into full strut like a tom turkey. And I said to David, there's got to be another deer down there. And I'm watching in the binoculars, and all of a sudden I can see the back of another deer standing in the creek basin. And they sort of started, doing the sizing each other up, going in circles, And pretty soon there, I think, what happened next day? Was there another buck that popped in there?
Yeah, there was another little 8 that joined the party.
Yeah.
We're not even sure where they're coming from at this point. Of just like they just materialized out of.
Yeah, so and they're at probably 75 yards below us, and our wind is perfect for the setup. And all of a sudden, David's like pointing up the hill, opposite the direction of the deer, and he's like, "There's one coming up there," and I'm like, "Well, don't spook the other ones." And he's like, "I'm not. Don't worry. He's far enough away. Chill out, relax." And I'm like, "Okay." And I look up and I'm like, "I don't see it." So I turn back and I look, and I'm watching these other 3 deer, or 4, or however many were there, and all of a sudden, they were all doing the circle, posturing each other, and they stopped and they looked up the hill. And I'm like, oh, I better look up the hill too. And I looked up the hill, and there he came. And I put my binoculars up, and I saw brows, and I saw that they were like chocolate, like Hershey's chocolate, and I'm like, wow, I'm in. I was in from then on. So, you want me to share the whole story, or you want me to wait for the video to come out?
It's your day, dude.
Let's wait for the video to come out. It ended up being a crazy next 30 minutes. Like it's unfortunately, we burned probably our best day in the timber in October and November yesterday morning. Because it was just one of those, a hellacious fight broke out. There was shit flying in the air.
Yeah.
There was deer running everywhere. It looked like, they were, I don't know what, it was crazy. It was crazy. I'll finish the story once we stop recording, so you can hear the rest of it. But let's get on to the what are you seeing out there? You heard what we're seeing. I can tell you that
we're seeing the same exact stuff, and I'm hearing it from some of the other guys too. Lots of social dynamic posturing between bucks right now. Wife and I had a good hunt last night. I kind of missed that cold front that we had on Thursday because I had to work, and it rained for 3/4 today, and I just didn't have a real good play I could make, and so I missed a good day that rebounded Friday and Saturday with a cold front. And finally, we got back in yesterday afternoon after work. But boy, we were seeing the same exact thing, guys. Bucks are like you're coming up out of the ground. Little bucks, spike bucks, fork horn, 6-point. And we did see a couple of good, 1-4 and 1-5, but they were doing the same exact thing on the same scrape line. Sizing the scrapes up, they finally got to where they could see each other, and was, they were engaging a little bit, but not a lot of. We haven't seen a lot of what I would consider, breeding activity, but we're definitely seeing that, social dynamic is changing for sure. We are seeing just a little bit of young bucks moving around and starting to nudge those, but boy, I've seen a lot of the same you guys are seeing there.
So that was primarily Missouri. Then we, packed all our stuff last night and left at 5 a.m. this morning and flew back to Wisconsin, and we hunted here tonight. And it's just, it's two different worlds. I mean, I'm a little bit jealous of the folks that get to live in areas like that and hunt areas like that. Because, we just don't get to see that kind of stuff, for 3 hunts in a row. And I think, David and I talked about a lot of it, and a lot of it's related to age class, I think, and then the deer density and the lack of pressure. We've got a ton of pressure here in Wisconsin, and so I think that has a little bit to do with, how much of true nature you're going to see while you're out there. It was cool to be able to see that. But just to talk a little bit more about the rut here, I saw one buck come across an open field, just sort of walking like a 3-year-old. And then I had a little buck chasing does, and that was
Yep.
and that was it. And David had, what did you see?
Saw 3 yearling bucks. 2 of them. There was a doe and a fawn came through, and then all in single file. Then two yearling bucks, but they all just look like they were on a walk to a field. I mean,
Yep.
nothing bucky about them. And then right at dark, another little one came through. But while I was on stand reaching out to other people, my son and a friend, in short order, both texted me that they had watched bucks breed does. And I thought that was pretty cool because I think I've seen that once in all my years, and they both saw that today.
Yeah, it's such a rarity too when that happens. Like I saw them the same exact way. Like last year, and it was for like my whole lifetime. I saw it twice in one season, and I don't know that I've ever seen it before or since. Like it's just such a strange feat to see, and to see it. Are you guys starting to see that up there, the early breeding? Do you think it's because you're legitimately so much further north than me, and you guys are a week or two ahead?
Well, this is a discussion that we've had. We're not that far from you. I mean, we were so we were just in Missouri. That's 5.5 hours from where we're at right now. If you take the juries, for instance, in their 13 different phases, whether they have folks on their pro staff that are hunting in Wisconsin or yes, Texas is a little bit farther behind, but by and large, if you look at Facebook or social media, people are killing deer all, whether it's the second to last week in October or the second to last week in November and anywhere in between. Do you think that there's a lag from north to south?
I think you can prove that.
In terms of the Midwest?
I think,
okay.
Yeah, well, I think you can prove that with, even if we're talking, upper Canada all the way down to, Texas. There are some deer herds that do funny things in Florida, but I think by and large, you can kind of track the rut south, so to speak, during the calendar season.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there is data out there to prove that. But it's definitely a provable occurrence, I think.
I guess I felt like I hadn't seen or ever. Maybe it's because I've never been in this situation where I talked to Todd and like what he was seeing was so much different than what I was seeing. Or you, for that matter. I mean, it sounds like we were seeing the same things, and
identical.
Yeah, because it's like the meme that I sent David Blanton here the other day. It was a clown, and he said I don't remember exactly how it was said, but it's like some guy sees a doe get bred in the last week of October, and everybody's freaking out because they took the wrong week of vacation, or something.
Yeah, yeah. It won't be long, and they'll be dropping shed antlers.
Right, exactly. And so I don't know how much of that's true or not true. I don't believe that what we're looking at up here, 5 hours north, or 5.5 hours north, is lockdown.
No, I won't. Yeah.
I mean, I think those are just does that are in early, and they're really what start the party, and they're the ones that start the frenzy. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, I've seen some. I have trail camera video of one doe that was like really being harassed, and it was like 2 weeks ago, and I mean like mouth open, grunting, like the crazy balls to the wall running of the rut, with audio, but I think the vast majority right now are on that cusp that you're going to catch some of those outliers that, she goes a little early, she goes a little later. Those early ones right now are, I think, starting to lead the drama.
Sure. So what's your strategy? I'll certainly give you mine. But what's your strategy going into the next week?
Start vacation and don't stop hunting until I punch tags. Next.
Okay, and if we were to dive deeper than that,
Well, I am starting to call a little bit, like you were talking about. And I did bring the horns for the first time last night when the wife and I went in. Didn't really get a chance to use them because I was going to get backdoor if I call a lot. Backdoor to circling downwind, and but I think it's time to start thinking about playing to aggression. It's definitely time that I'm going to start thinking about putting a decoy out. I've got a handful of places that I want to try that are like newly found decoy spots for me, like highly visible, really good backdrop, so to speak, behind the set so he doesn't backdoor me, stuff like that.
What makes a good setup for you like that?
I couldn't hear you, Jason. Sorry.
What makes a good setup for you? I talked with Jared Mills a little bit about that last week, and he said, the previous 6 or 7 days, he was talking about using a decoy and what made a good decoy setup, not the decoy itself, but what structurally,
so
and situationally,
a handful of things, like there's. For one, you want it super visible, obviously, because the time everybody's up on their feet, and it does you no good if it's down in a hole. So if the real deer can't see it, you might as well leave it at the house.
Right on.
But you also need a spot where, like, they have a tendency to feel crowded if you try and pinch them too tight, like around standing corn or inside corners that they pop out of. They're like, whoop, shit, there's a buck decoy. What is this? Like, you want to try and give them some space so they can size up the approach and be, like, confident that they're not going to get murdered doing so. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, by the fake deer, not the hunter above. Like, and also, like, if I'm doing a decoy spot, I don't really want them to be able to hook down in behind me very easily.
Sure.
Like on an edge of a drop off or a cliff or a ravine or whatever, a creek bed. That's always helpful to use kind of that terrain to set like a little pick for you. But just give them some space. Don't get them too tight into cover where they feel crowded and they don't want to approach. That's one of the biggest things for me. Because when they feel that way, I feel like that, like when they're cautious to approach because they're being crowded. With structure around the decoy, like they can't get away, then it heightens some of their other senses a little bit. And if they smell that thing while they're semi-keyed up already, it's busted.
Okay. So
are you usually in a feeding area then? I mean, are you usually, Clint?
Yeah, like most of the time it's on field edges, and I like throwing them into waterways that come into like drainage areas. Like from the field into timberline, areas like that. And if we've got an open stretch of timber that you can see, halfway decent through, we've been known to bring it inside the woods too.
Well, the reason I ask, I don't have a lot of decoy experience, but the few times that I have messed around with it, it's same type of thing. But it seems like those first does that come out sometimes.
Oh, I know it.
Just have no time for that.
No, you're right. I don't know why, but I feel like I've had more success decoying in the mornings than in the evenings, just for the simple fact that I feel like you're catching one of those, think about it, one of those mature bucks right now. He's up running around, scent checking edges and trying to find the next party. So I feel like they're easy to intercept now versus when you're throwing them just strictly in a destination feeding field. When the does come out, you're right, Dave. Most of them will throw a fit. So you want to balance. Like I like to try and put it in somewhere like that I know he's going to travel parallel to bedding, like doe bedding. If I can get a field edge scenario where they're not, I'm not crowding his bedding area with it, but I'm not crowding them, the does with it either. If that makes any sense. But you're right. As soon as the does see it, it's a shit show a lot of times, and that's the caveat.
Well, that makes a lot of sense though, because our little Missouri trip here, we couldn't have shot a doe if we wanted one.
No,
I don't hardly even saw one. All we saw was bucks in the mornings.
Well, that's a good problem to have.
Right, but I mean, I get your point about the mornings, because that's the cruising we saw was.
The mornings were way more productive than the evenings, and we have a lot of experience in the evening since we got to hunt for a total of 4 hours in the evening. But I would say, just as a general rule here, over the last 2 weeks, I've hunted 90% of the days, I would say, and it's definitely been a morning movement.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about using one in the morning. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to go in. I'm going to go in deep.
If I have to use one, I'm using it. Probably 75% of the times in the morning, and the other 25% evening. It's that skewed.
Interesting. So,
but I won't use it for very long. Maybe a whole grand total of 7 to 10 days, and then we're going to revolve into, probably doe bedding and doe feeding. Trying to intercept.
Okay. Oh. So, are you? If you're not going to be decoying, are you going to be deep in the timber?
Yeah, just kind of situational.
Okay.
We went in deep really yesterday. Wife and I went in right at noon. As soon as I got off from the clinic, and we hopped in real quick in the deep timber, just because it was in a deeper spot where we've got a pre-hung in there that I got a super good visibility spot there, and I just really needed to know a little bit more about what was going on in there. And then we're in there on one that's pretty decent, and we had a pretty good little fact find. We had pretty fair hunts in there, and we're just trying to size it up. See how good it is, and when do I need to start just really crowding it in here? And we had a good hunt, and actually got away with it. The movement was so scattered throughout every hour of the afternoon and evening that it was, you were just as likely to get picked off walking out as you were not. It was so haphazard and random, but it was a lot of buck posturing and young bucks acting squirrely. But
sure,
yeah.
I think by and large those older ones are done acting squirrely because they're like, yeah, we're gonna walk down the hill and instead of run, and
yep.
I think that's where we're at. That's the one reason I'm going in real tight to a doe bedding area, just because I think my chance at killing Mr. Perfect is going to be trying to catch him coming from the downwind side of a bedding area headed to the next one.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try and get in between.
Have you got anything recent on him as far as any photos or any intel?
Wednesday morning he was way down at the bottom of the hill by the trailer, by the car. You remember where that was?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was down there, tending a scrape at 9:30 in the morning. So he continues to be so random, but yet so careless with his daylight activity that, one of us is going to run into him, I would think, eventually here. We've got enough time. I've got till Thursday, I think Dana comes in, and then Sunday David Blanton comes in. So I'm gonna spend a ton of time in the woods, and it's not going to be filming, but I'll have folks to entertain and things like that to do. But still, I'll get to hunt. So I'm hoping to run into him. I really think that Josh still has the best shot, and he has stayed out of what we believe is his core bedding area. He's stayed out of there until he feels like it's really the right time, and I think that time is coming really quick. But
yeah, it's probably now.
Yeah, he's just waiting for the right wind, and he knows that better than I do, and he knows, he's been hunting that farm for a long, long time. So
Yeah.
He's got a pretty good. I think he's got a pretty good idea of what they do and when they do it and how they do it. So.
See, and I'm in the opposite. I'm working on this buck we call Sub-Zero, and he's definitely doing some screwball stuff this year that he wasn't last year. Like, he's in a completely different, it's like he's shacking up in a completely different farm. Like, he is 3/4 of a mile now from where he was last year at this time. And he's been there all the time.
Wow.
Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Something's different, but it's not good because now I'm having to, like, I'm worrying about now, is he going back to his other spot? Is he migrating? Like, he's definitely doing something this year that is like total screwball. I don't know what to do with. And so I'm trying to like fact find as I go. But I just want to go haywire and just dive in and be like ultra aggressive on this spot that I don't know what he's doing with. I'm going to start running out of days pretty soon. I haven't started vacation yet, but it comes and goes very quickly. Very quickly.
How old is Sub-Zero? How old do you figure he is, Clint?
I think he's 6. I'm about 100% positive on it. I've got enough. I got enough trail camera history to get him to that age for sure. But I'm not sure why he would, unless I just may have missed him there last year. But I don't think we did. We had cameras on it, and we Chet hunted and scouted it. Like, I don't think he was there last year at all. And I don't really understand the transition because he's transitioned into a more open section of timber that's not as cover friendly, and like I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it. I don't know why he's doing that shit, but it's pissing me off.
I know it's only a guess. Obviously, you can only speculate. But do you think sometimes those bigger bucks, if you get we'll call it the younger rowdy boys, and they just don't want to deal with that?
Yeah, maybe that's. My brother and I were talking about that. I mean, maybe that's what happened, Dave. Like, I know it wasn't us because he tolerated our hunting pressure in his core last year without abandoning it. Like, he was there a little bit during the spring, like I should say spring, early summer. We could tell it was him by 4th of July. We had him still over there, and so then he just up and shifts to a different place at random, and it's been a screwball deal. But I think you're right. It very well. I don't think it was us. I hope it wasn't, because if it was, it wasn't for lack of trying. Mm-hmm. But maybe something else happened. Maybe it's food related, but maybe it's pressure related from other younger bucks. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the question is, then, with that knowledge, do you try and work him with decoy? Like, it's decoys work on
why not
mature deer.
Like, they do. They absolutely do. Absolutely.
That one I killed last year was, no exception. Like, it was right around now. I shot him on the 3rd, and he was coming right to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's time to try it if you're gonna. And it's a what-if game, but I think you got nothing. Like, I've got a spot picked out on this little place where I know damn good well I can get in there easily without spooking anything in the morning, set it up fake, and be able to sneak out without anything even knowing I'm there if they don't engage it. Like, it's so good that I think I need to try it and just, side effects be damned.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Now or never.
Hell yeah, might as well.
Cool.
And it's a lot of fun too. I think it's fun. And decoys are a pain in the ass to pack around the whole lot with. They're just awful. Like, no one's ever made a deer decoy. It's not awful to pack. Period.
I've got one in the box downstairs that says it's super easy.
Yeah. And the box isn't even that big. So.
The box doesn't seem that big. Maybe just bring the box, spread it out on the ground in the dark, and Oh,
Yeah,
that's
they're
hilarious.
awful. They've never made a good one that's quiet or tactical.
Right.
So you about need
Tactical.
like a fleet of like 7 decoys, and you just put them together and leave them out there in the weeds, put together somewhere, and dig them out come season because they're awful to pack.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Well, I better take this one out of the box, or it's going to smell like Amazon or whatever it smells like. Any final thoughts? We got 40 minutes of your time taken, and I don't want to take your whole night.
And I'm glad you got one, dude. That's what my final thought is. That thing was awesome.
It was incredible. It was incredible. Stick around after we finish recording, and I'll finish the story real quick.
And Dave punched the record button.
David
Like, that's a big deal.
David knocked the ball out of the park, like knocked it out of the park. Perfect. It was
That's
like
awesome.
it was like National Geographic shit. It was that good.
Mutual of Omaha shit.
Right.
Well, let's
right.
not get crazy. It was pretty good. But that stuff's surreal.
All right. Well, let's do this again next Sunday night, and this will air Monday, the 2nd of November. And I hope the Bucks aren't on lockdown, but I would imagine next Sunday we'll have a whole different topic to talk about, and that's how to go about dealing with deer that are locked down. But
Or taxidermy decisions.
or packed, or yeah,
Could be
whether
taxidermy
you want the upright sneak or the upside down sneak, or pedestal
Or
mount,
the full body.
or the full
Or the full
body.
body,
Right.
right.
I elected for the full body. Anyway, all right. Well, until next week, thanks again for taking the time. One thing that I wanted to ask is if you're gonna post a picture of the deer you shoot or whatever it is you're gonna post, and it's about the rut, just use the hashtag Embrace the Grind, which is something that Todd and I came up with a long time ago, and it's on a bunch of our T-shirts. So for those of you out there that are going to listen to this, just use the hashtag Embrace the Grind. With that, I don't have anything else. Clint, David, do you guys?
Nope. Good luck, everybody. Get after it.
Yeah, good luck to you guys, man. Let's get after it and go wide open now.
All right. That's all I've got. Jason out. Well, there you have it, another episode of the White Knuckle Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show and hope you picked up a few nuggets of information along the way that you can use down the road. I want to take just a second and thank our partner in this endeavor, and that is UC Hunting Properties. Without them, this couldn't be possible. You guys all know that I work with UC Hunting Properties, and they're actually nationwide. I would encourage you, for any of your property needs, go to www.uchuntingproperties.com. Thanks for listening. Jason out.